Welcome to my video with the KZ ZSX, KZ ZAX and the CCA CKX. Very confusing model names. Basically this was a requested video compared to how the CKX, which are here, sound compared to those. So yeah, on the left to right in no particular order, which is the KZ ZSX, the Terminator model, quite ambitious model. The KZ ZAX, again hybrid. So they are 5 balanced armatures, 1 dynamic per side. These are 7 balanced armatures and 1 dynamic per side. And this is the CCA CKX, if it focuses, which has 6 balanced armatures and 1 dynamic driver per side. Technically quite small. So let's get into fitment and comfort, which is the most important, because if it doesn't fit you very well or the comfort is bad, you're not going to listen to them, doesn't matter how good they sound. So fitment and comfort, the ZSX, these are technically, I think, the worst. Some people have no issues personally like me, but so the shell is quite big. It's quite a fat boy, as you can see. Some people have issues with this part, so that's the right ear, how that sits in the ear. I can understand that. That's why that's probably the worst. So let's pick two the same side. The ZAX, which is the most drivers, is a bit thinner. So let's get that one. So look at the that's got more drivers than this. Look how thinner it is. These two are the best for comfort. Some people have moaned about the CKX being actually too small, which I can kind of understand, because it's, considering the driver count, it is a really kind of small shell. But these two I think are the best for comfort. The ZAX and the CKX, those are the best for me for comfort. Sound, these two I'd say sound probably the closest, but they all do have elevated upper mids and elevated low end, some more than others. But I'll get into bass. I found the CKXs probably have the most, not much but a little bit more, and these two are quite close. The Terminator and the ZAX, these are probably the cleanest I'd say in the low end. The ZAX, there's not much between all of them in reality. This is me nitpicking. The ZAX probably technically have the cleanest low end compared to like the CKX. If you're after more fun for like electronic music, the CKX, if it focuses, this one actually probably has the most. It's the most fun sounding, I'd say, for low end. But these two are technically closer. This is the cleanest, I'd say. I'm not sure if it's the same type of driver. It could be. But yeah, for low end, for technical performance in the low end, I'd say the ZAX is the best. And then the ZSX can seem a little bit loose. It's probably the best way to describe it. For mid bass and sub bass, I'd probably say the ZAX is the cleanest, but the CKX has probably got the most. So it depends if that's kind of your preference. Mids, a lot of this is extremely similar across the mids. The only real difference is the top. So these two have the most upper mids, which is not my kind of tuning. I prefer more natural. The CKX probably has the least upper mid boost, because they're all boosted. The CKX is the leanest at the top. It's the most it's the least elevated. It's probably the best way to describe it. So the CKX is the least elevated upper mids, which is what I prefer. It can always sound, when it's overly boosted, I'm kind of bored of that, because it's what's in a lot of Chinese tuning, because it's tuned for female vocals to be more forward. That's the point. But these two do actually have the most. It's quite close between them, but as a runner-up, I'd say probably the the ZAX, but again, these two are probably quite close at the upper mids kind of part. And they all, one thing to bear in mind, they all do have a balanced armature in the nozzle, just how they're designed. And let's get on to treble. Now, this is where they separate slightly. The ZAX, this one, has the most treble, well, kind of mid, up to 8K. Out of the treble for all three, the ZAX has the most, then the ZSX, and then the CKX. The CKX is out of all the three, this is the least. It's probably the most bass and the least brightest. Is probably the best way to describe it. I prefer that tuning out of all these, but for like stage and instrument separation, I'd probably say is the ZAX wins. Then kind of followed by that, and then kind of followed by that. Sometimes when there's a lot of stuff going on, like there's a lot of congestion in the track, the ZAX is probably the best. But because it's both got boosted upper mids over that, it's kind of more artificial. The ZS10 Pro, if I still own one of those, out of the hybrids, that sounds the most artificial. They do get better. These are all newer generations, and they do get better. But they've still got the armature in the nozzle, which is kind of not my favourite kind of tuning. Without like the CCA CA16, I prefer that kind of upper mids over all of these three, but that's a separate kind of tuning. That's tuned a bit different to these. So separate video, that's a separate one. You can also check my review for that. I'll probably link it in the description. So back on for treble. For stage, the ZAX is probably the biggest. For instrument separation, I'll probably say the ZAX is the best. I think it may partially help that it's not a sealed unit. You see, it's not sealed. I'd say then followed probably by that, and then the safe option with the CKX. So for female vocals, they're more forward on those two, and a little bit forward with that. Male vocals are probably not perfect on all, just by how there's a little bit of mid-bass bleed, just how they're designed. But they're not all that different for male vocals, but they're all still clear enough on all three. So imaging is good on all. I'll probably say imaging is probably best on those two here. And they're all really easy to power on any device, really, considering the driver count. I had no issues. The CCA CA16s, they're kind of power hungry, but again, that's a different kind of product. This is the closest that they make, including the ASX and the ASF, which is kind of a flop, but obviously people know about those. But yeah, obviously the ZSX is the cheapest, and these two are obviously more expensive. Value for money, the ZSX, if you can still find these in a deal, they still perform quite well. But they don't have the best tonality. I'd still say out of all these three, the CKX is my personal pick. It's the safest tune with a bit more bass. But for technical performance, I'd still say the ZAX is probably the best for sheer details and just sheer technical performance. Instrument separation, that's still the king. I'd like to know what they're going to do next, because they've been kind of quiet after the ASX and the F. The only thing that came out after those was the CKX. So I'm quite curious what they do next, because this is that's KZ's top dog at the moment, and it is okay. It's not a bad performance. It's just, I love to see. I think Clinical said before he wanted to tune for KZ, but I love to see if that ever happens. So anything you get on, as usual, let me know in the description. But I'm going to say quick summary: the CKX is the easiest to listen. It's the smoothest, probably the most bass. The ZAX is the best for technical performance and the most treble a little bit. These two have the most boosted upper mids. I'd say the ZAX as the cleanest low end a little bit. And this is just, these two I'd say are kind of an upgrade over this. The ZAX is an upgrade over the Terminator. If you can afford these two and you're looking what a good thing from KZ, I'd probably pick the ZAX over the Terminators. The comfort thing is what puts me off for these for other people, because just the sheer shape. So my personal pick, I prefer the smoother bassy option. But if I ever want something that's more an exciting time, shall we say, I still do use the ZAX. They still perform quite well. Like in movies, if you want big explosions, the CKXs are good. But if you want to hear more sheer details, the ZAX are still a good pair. Yeah, and they still hold up. I still think these still hold up. These are from 2019, I think, and they still perform quite well. I no longer own the CCA C12. That would have been in this video. But that had too much upper mids for me. I wasn't keen on it, so I don't own that anymore. And yeah, anything as usual, let me know in the comments. But out of a pick, I prefer pick these two. That's what I'd pick personally. But out of all the KZs I think they've ever made, these are still the best KZ product for performance overall, and probably fit and ease of use and good stage. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching and take care. And I've got some more videos upcoming, like the manga tees, which are over there. I've got them. So yeah, take care.